of the Justice Committee. First of all, I'd like to say I'm sorry that we've kept you waiting for 20 minutes. We ran over time this morning, but you have our full attention now. Please have a seat. So we've got your written submission that we've had a look at.
Yes.
You're welcome to take a seat as well. Do you have people as support people?
Yes, I have. This is, my name is Brent Andrews.
Brent.
Brent. Brent's the
nice to meet you,
victim.
Brent.
And this is Stephanie Lees. She's also a victim.
Hi, Stephanie. And you're welcome, another person as well. Sorry, please bring a seat round as well. So have a seat. You're before the committee. We've allocated 10 minutes this morning, but I understand from the clerk that more than one of you might want to speak today. Is that the case?
It'd be fantastic.
Great. We do have only 10 minutes. And typically when we're hearing submitters, when someone gives us a submission, as you have, Steve, it's just them who speak. But given the fact that you're a group and I know that there are some other people, if you can be economical with your time as much as possible, I'm happy to hear a few other people's points of view as well.
Fantastic.
I know that you've had a long trip down all the way from Auckland, so thank you for making the time to come and see the committee. I just want to be sure that you're aware that we will make public what you've said, so that's important.
Well, that's one thing we were going to bring up. We're very concerned. It actually rattled us, actually.
Yep, no, I appreciate the fact.
We have a democratic right.
No, and that's exactly what the select committee process is here for, is for your story to be told. And I want to be very clear that that's the case. But saying that though, we always have concerns about other people's rights as well. So in terms of natural justice and of naming other people or naming things that are before the courts, those are issues that we need to be watchful of to make sure everyone's rights are protected. But to give preference to be able to hear your story is the number one. So what we will, the committee is determined to do is to record today's process, and if we're making sure that all those natural justice provisions are adhered to, then we're happy to make public the record today on that basis.
Well, please understand our New Zealand Bill of Rights 1990 section 14, which was the very first part of my submission, because one of the problems is the voice of the child and even the parents' voices are not heard because of the secrecy of the family court.
Well, they're the things that we have to take a look at. So we have your written submission. I'll start it now for 10 minutes, and we'll see if you're at the end of the 10 minutes. I'll indicate when that's coming up, and we'll give you a bit more time if you've still got a few bits to get through. But please take us through your submission. Just pointing out too that because we've read your submission, you might want to just bring us to the parts that you're most wanting to get across as part of your story.
Okay. Well, thanks for you going to publish this submission, because we're a very, very large group. We started off as Families for Justice, and we decided to become a much larger group across New Zealand, and we're a very united group. And there are hundreds of thousands of disenfranchised New Zealanders from every race, from every gender, and from every religion. So one of the things that you wanted to do, and the public I'd like to know, is to even be here today because of the secrecy of the family court. I had to write 3 submissions, and in the end I had to leave it up to a barrister to finish it off so that I could continue to drive from Auckland to Wellington to be able to present this to the Select Committee today. So one of the things we've talked about, and I understand, was we want to explain to the committee that we have evidence. You know, I'm an engineer. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am an international award-winning exporter on more than 2 occasions for New Zealand companies, as well as a British one. So we deal in facts. We're not trying to hype this up to be anything more than this is real, that is going on in the New Zealand family court and their associates, and they are abusing the families. And that is what is causing all the harm. Right, so we looked at a very high profile case. But one of the things we want to talk about is there's really no such thing as the voiceless. There's only the deliberate silence that's enforced upon us by the state and the rules that they're putting in place, that we are unable to be heard. And so behind closed doors, corruption and lawlessness within the family court is outrageous. And there's an example of this. You know, as I said, we've had to put together 3 separate submissions to try and get within the rules of this lawlessness to be able to tell the truth. The truth is never being heard at the present time within the family court because it's a secret place. It's a very secret place. And we're threatened by the state to keep our mouth shut. And we're forced by law not to be able to voice our opinion at the lawlessness that's being inflicted on us by the state against our families. The ministers need to change the laws so that these people can be heard. And this is an intergenerational problem. You know, the kids we've got today, they're the adults now, or will be the adults soon, and they will have the same problem of not being heard. You know, the situation is so dire within the family court that I do wonder at times what it would be like if all the family court victims just breached civil disobedience and published all their family court records online. What is the state going to do? Are they going to put all these parents in jail? The taxpayers wouldn't be very happy about it, and you haven't got enough jails. You know, there's 60,000 consumers going through the family court every year. It is outrageous, the lawlessness that is going on. I am a victim, but one of the high-profile cases, we have included 2 newspaper articles, and that seemed to be a bit of a problem for the committee. That particular person was trying to protect his children, and he had to protest and get on a plane outside of the jurisdiction of New Zealand to protest in another country, to put the information on YouTube by a gentleman called, it doesn't matter, but it was another gentleman, to be able to supply the information to ministers of the Crown. Every single minister of the Crown in 2014 got those videos. Over the years, only 3 ministers ever contacted him. One of them believed that it couldn't happen in New Zealand. The history as it did. And those children were used in a domestic drug operation by the state for 2.5 years. The father feared for his children. He lived on adrenaline all for 2.5 years when the drug dealers came to this gentleman's house and tried to intimidate him with an AK-47. This was real. This father had actually been to the New Zealand police and had figured out they weren't going to help him and didn't realise he was actually taking on the whole of the state of New Zealand. The Organised Financial Crime Agency of New Zealand, which operated out of the Prime Minister's office. It's now moved out of the Prime Minister's office since this operation, and it's now part of the New Zealand Police. Clearly, from the newspaper articles, this particular victim was right. But some of the things that were really strange in the case was the vast difference in comments by the judiciary. One judge said that the application was brought to, by the father to remove the children from the mother on the grounds to embarrass the mother. And that was after the first drug operation, which was in Glenfield, in the King Storage Lockers, where he was manufacturing methamphetamine. 2.5 years later, when the father threatened the clandestine lab people and members of the police that he was going to bring in an international rescue team from offshore, did they take the steps to arrest those people? And then the vindictiveness of the state thereafter to threaten this father by taking away his security license, which was another example. Now, one of the things is there is evidence, clear evidence, which we can't show you because we're not allowed to, the relationship between what the police were doing and what Oranga Tamariki was doing. It was Child, Youth and Family there. But all those organisations breached their statutory legal obligations of welfare and safety of the children. You know, the reason that SIFs and OT are set up is to protect those children, but they didn't. What they did is they cooperated with the New Zealand police. And the police breached their Police Regulations Act 2008, which is the Care of Child Act 2004, which is welfare and safety of the children is the first consideration and paramount. And then the police took away the father's security license, so he wasn't able to work. And I understand that he was a multi-millionaire back in 2014. He owned a freehold house in Auckland, so he must have been, because every house is worth $1 million there now. And he's now living in motel accommodation with his son that he was awarded. But his daughter timed out and suffers the classic symptoms of parental alienation and was abandoned by the mother 2 years ago. The court and Oranga Tamariki and the lawyers for child all decided that the daughter would have been better with the mother, but it wasn't true. But there are more than this. You know, I've got an example here of absolute lawlessness in the family court. We've got another one here of a little child that cannot give its voice. That's sitting in a hospital right now. And there are examples. So we formed a group called Families for Justice. 70% of the group are women. So we're not a gender group. So we're not misogynists and we're not feminists. We're just parents. And that's really important. We're not interested in gender. We're not interested in religion. We're not interested in race. But what we find, the biggest problem in our grouping is that the court cannot decide who is the protective parent and usually goes after that parent. And the reason is because that parent is really determined to protect their children. It's a natural instinct. And if, with all due respect, if you had someone trying to shoot you with a gun, I'm sure you'd find that your natural instincts would come out. There are many other people in our group, like heroes, like Jean Tahuia, the midwife, who stood down the New Zealand police, the whole of the government, on this all-of-government approach. You know, Not One More Baby is one of the groups that we work with. You know, we've got SIFs fighters, we've got Oranga Tamariki, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and Kids for Justice. But that is only one, a few of the groups that are spread across New Zealand to become this united group that was formed with Maori people. Fantastic bunch of people. We didn't get anybody who would listen to us until we decided to be lawful and start protesting outside judges' houses and use Brooker versus New Zealand Police Supreme Court of Appeal to do such a thing. But we're still not being listened to. We've backed off for a couple of years, but nothing's happening. We thought we were on luck when Andrew Little decided to do the New Zealand family court law reform, and there's been absolutely no changes. It's still a lawless, corrupt outfit. When we say the system is lawless and corrupt, we don't want to make that sound like that is a throwaway comment. We're saying that with real determination and facts. That's what we really want to be able to put before you people. There are facts, right? And not just that, some of your other ministers have made similar comments. The perjury is rife within the professionals, and the defendants can't be heard. The lawyer for child, honestly, Simon, if it ever happened to you, you'd be very disappointed at the behaviour of some of those lawyers for child, right? You know, one of the things we've all been watching, some of the production produced by the committee, and one of them was, I think, Birthright, and she mentioned a lawyer, and we're not going to mention him, but he was involved in this case of one of the case studies we've talked about today. And here's one of the leading lawyer for childs in New Zealand, and he knew that these children were involved in this drug operation.
Can I know, Steve, you've got a lot there. Just checking if there's other people that want to speak. We're well over the 10 minutes now. We're gone a fair bit over that. So if you can have a couple more minutes to wrap up and check if there's anyone else who'd like to offer some comments today.
Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I would. Please excuse the shaky voice and all that. You know, emotions are pretty high right now. But if I could just give a little, like the briefest version of my story as I possibly could. I come from a very abused childhood myself. I then became in abusive relationships, stuck in a very abusive relationship that I finally escaped with one of my 5 children. I then got my younger children. I moved away just to escape the relationship. I moved back and gained back my youngest 2 children. Some things happened in my life from my childhood where I was taken back to court as an adult for propensity evidence to put somebody else that has reoffended and bring justice that I never received as that child. And in that moment, my trauma was used to take my children based on lies, false allegations, false statements. Without notice, I lost my 2 youngest children out of 5. I was already a grandmother. Now, I turned everywhere I possibly could for help, everywhere, including the police, hospital, SIFs, WINS, IRD, Te Arakuru, so many places. But because we were before the family court, there's no help whatsoever. 18 months or 15 months or 12 months maybe into family court, the lawyers, the psychologists, the court, they couldn't work it out. So they hired Oranga Tamariki to investigate. 2.5 years this investigation went on. And I never, ever had a court hearing, never, ever allowed to defend the original allegations that went to the court that lost my children. And I fought tooth and nail because I was innocent. I got my official police information to prove my innocence, but I was told that needs to be left for the judge for a hearing. Okay, 5 years in that family court, I never had one court hearing, not one. But I was a protective mother and an innocent mother, and I fought until my children got police evidentials. Right up until that day, I was told nobody can override a court order. The day my children's police evidentials were heard, the court order was overridden. I still have never had a court hearing. I have been discharged, and I've had my children back for 3 years. And the damage that still continues today is immense, totally immense. This one case alone has cost our country and our taxpayers $1 million plus. Me and my children are still in therapy, but that's not the end, because this broke apart an entire family. Today we are still very much broken. We have no justice, we've had no voice, and we've had no help. But my God, have we been judged and ridiculed so harshly, so harshly. And it's not okay. One thing I'd like you to all think about or go and have a look at is me speaking in here in this room on the perjury bill about this very same stuff we're talking about today. Do you know what upsets me the most? It's not one person ever has ever come and asked me any questions about it. And I have reached out to members of the parliament, the Ministry of Justice. I went to the justice thing in 2018, and there was a lady in that room that stood up about the family court and the Oranga Tamariki that day, never ever broadcast. That lady was me. And I'm not going to stop speaking up, and I'm not going to stop fighting, because there are other families out there. I've got my kids back. I should be happy and living on with my life, trying to do what I can for my children. But there are far too many people out there like me, and my children suffering for no goddamn reason.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Look, I really would like to make a point of thanking you for coming in, for telling your story, and making the time to give this committee an insight into what your lives have been through over the past years, specifically to the family court.
Well, one of the things
And
we're
look,
trying to explain to you
Finish. Can I
is
just
that
finish?
the voice of the child can never get listened to over the din of the professionals and the state, which is outrageously, lawlessly, corrupt and out of control. And, you know, the people, you don't talk to them like I do. The hundreds of thousands in New Zealand are getting angry, like really angry. And Oranga Tamariki, it has taken us years to prove that they're a lawless, corrupt outfit, right? And you've got 250,000 to 460,000 who are now on the Royal Commission of Sexual Abuse, saying they were abused in state or faith-based care. Are you kidding me? You people don't listen. You ministers of the Crown are not doing the service to us, the people. And you need to buck your ideas up, because we're getting really angry. And we went after Tracy Martin because she wouldn't listen to the victims. We got rid of New Zealand first. Do not underestimate the power of your people. They are really seriously angry.
I hear that, Steve, and I thank you so much for coming in today. And that's the conclusion of today's submission. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.